For the past several months, despite the multitude of box office flops, streaming failures, and PR disasters, Bob Iger and everyone at Disney has been busy, not trying to actually fix this company, but instead trying to convince everybody that everything's fine, that they've already put themselves on the right path to recovery, and that there doesn't need to be any changes. Now, of course, a lot of that has to do with the upcoming proxy battle between Bob Iger and people like Nelson Peltz, Jay Rasulo, and Ike Perlmutter, who actually want to make changes to the company. But Bob Iger apparently, while trying to convince everybody that Disney is fixed, that Disney is saved, that it's a good place to invest your money in right now, apparently Bob Iger doesn't actually feel that way, because Bob Iger got busted while he's been busy trying to convince everybody that Disney's a good bet for the future. Apparently the man himself, the CEO himself, doesn't exactly think so. Disney CEO Bob Iger sells off more than 80% of his stake in the company. Take a look at this. Disney CEO Bob Iger quietly dumps company stock before billionaire showdown. Disney CEO Bob Iger has been loudly proclaiming that the iconic media corporation is currently on an upswing and rebounding from years of box office flops and controversies, which raises a question. Why is he selling hundreds of shares of Disney stock? Hundreds? I would say thousands is probably a better descriptor of that, because apparently he's sold nearly 80% of his portfolio. Walt Disney's in something of a crisis mode as its board of directors faces an aggressive campaign by Nelson Peltz, who's supported by former Marvel Entertainment chair Ike Perlmutter and former CFO Jay Rasulo, who are attempting to seize a control block of seats. Similar, Blackwell's Capital, another investment group, is doing the same. In the midst of all that, shareholders and the public at large are wondering if and when Bob Iger has any plans to leave Disney, the organization at which he spent most of his professional life and is widely associated with. While Iger can only say it's a priority to replace him, the fact that he's rapidly dumping Disney stock, even as he claims to be looking towards the future, might hint that he actually has some plans afoot. Bob Iger is one of the single largest individual shareholders of the Walt Disney Company. However, records show that over the course of the last 12 months, Iger has sold off some 80% of his stock. Although not officially verified numbers as of a year ago, it was reported that the Disney CEO owned just over 1 million shares of Disney stock. That's a lot of fucking money. Currently, he owns 204,000. That is a pretty massive sell-off, and while Iger's not obligated to explain what he's doing with his own assets, it certainly raises some eyebrows. Now, I do believe in 2021, he had about 1 million shares and sold off about 500,000. That was after he had stepped down as CEO, blah, blah, blah. At some point, he probably when the price dropped, he probably acquired those shares back to get back up to 1 million. But you're talking about a dude who's trying to convince everybody that Disney's fixed, that Disney's on the right path, that Disney's a good bet for the future, that they've turned things around. And a lot of that's just straight up bullshit, let's be honest. We know that, we've been talking about it. But when you do something like that, it seems pretty clear that you yourself aren't a big believer in what Disney's doing going forward. And it's incredibly ironic because one of the things that Nelson Peltz has been very critical of the Disney board in general of is that they themselves don't own a ton of Disney stock. So now you have Bob Iger, right, dropping 80% of his stock over the last year while trying to tell everybody that they're on the path to recovery. So certainly probably not something that he actually wanted to get out there, wanted people to know that he's been dumping his own company's stock while trying to tell everybody that, you should really invest in Disney right now. I guess it's not a surprise. Bob Iger has made mistake after mistake ever since coming back, despite trying to blame everything on the previous regime that really was still his regime. But he can avoid that blame and avoid the controversy no longer. A lot of people looking at Bob Iger at everything he does. And certainly when you're the front man, when you're the CEO, and you've dropped 80% of the stock in this company that you're trying to tell everybody that's recovered, not a good sign. What do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.